So DvSum Data Catalog was built to address these challenges. It makes it remarkably easy for any organization to discover, monitor, and govern data. With powerful intelligent automation, DvSum catalogs, classifies, and curates data from your numerous siloed data sources and makes it available as a unified, actionable catalog out of the box. It allows all data users in an organization to gain visibility into the data landscape, collaborate on use cases beyond data governance. So how does it work? You connect your sources to DvSum and run the scan. It captures the available metadata from databases, data lakes, your BI layer, tables and columns, files. It infers the columns from those files. It profiles that data. For the BI layer, it extracts data sets, reports, workbooks, data connections, lineage. And the third is it automatically enriches this information, classifies data on various dimensions, entity detection, linking to universal entities, as well as your custom glossary, looks at the data profile, auto recommends DQ rules, and generates the data quality scores. Finally, all of this information is available in an integrated connected data catalog ready to use. So how is this information used? Of course, it enables lean and agile data governance. With intelligent automation, data teams can easily scale their metadata enrichment and quality efforts across a complex landscape. It speeds up data discovery. Analytics teams can easily find and evaluate and confidently choose the best data for their needs. And the third is it improves data literacy. With our desktop and universal access plugin, business users can consume and contribute to the catalog seamlessly within their tools like reports, emails, documents, increasing that literacy and trust in data. All right, so that was with the overview. Let's see this in action. For our demo, we look at products, customers, and orders data. We look at from the perspective of different data users: Sam Steward, Adam the analyst, Emma the engineer, and Becky in business. And the data setup looks like this. We have data coming into a raw zone in a data lake that is transformed to curated, or let's say cleaned up to put into a curated zone, loaded into a data warehouse like Snowflake, and reports and models are created for them from them in Tableau. So that I'm going to switch to the application. All right, so I'm logging in as Sam. And the first thing that as Sam I'm going to do is add a source. So first, let's see how you add a source. We can add different types of sources. We support 150 different connectors. In this case, we're going to start with the raw zone, the data on the left. So again, for the purpose of expediency, I have set up these sources. Let's take a quick look at how easy it is to set them up. So I define the connection settings. Depending on the type of sources, in this case, you define your credentials. You can also select whether you're using partitions. It automatically recognizes Avro, Parquet, CSV files, or it is like a normal drive structure like Google Drive, where you can drop in multiple files at the same time. In this case, in this particular container, I've specifically selected, you can target it to say that I'm going to scan only the raw zone. And once we finish the scan summary tells us that how many objects it was able to scan, how many columns it inferred from those data sets, and then what it did with it, which we'll look at just a minute. So for our demo purposes, we are going to look at 4 different sources. As I said, the raw zone, the curated zone, both in Azure Data Lake Storage, the data warehouse in Snowflake, and Tableau in BI in Tableau. So the first thing is, let's look at what I scanned from the raw zone. So in this particular case, first of all, because it's a data lake, it automatically goes down into the folder. So in this case, it was able to go down and found these customer master under Salesforce folder, and under ERP folders, it found orders, products, and stock data sets. So let's take a look at the first one. First, and this is all out of the box information. So first of all, this is the catalog page of the object. We have the description. In this case, because there was no description available, it tried to create its own description or curate that information. We see who the information is managed by from an ownership standpoint. Data stewardship, it is not defined yet. We have the lineage information. We'll come to those use cases in a second. And we have the classification that the system does. So in this case, it's a file, it's a CSV. If it was Parquet, it would say Parquet. Based on looking at the data and its attributes, it automatically says this looks like a data set called master data. I have some data quality information. We'll take a look at it and also how to get access to this information. In addition to that, here we have the column profiles or the profile of the data. So we see the record count, we see the size of the file. Let's look at data dictionary. Here I see all the columns that it was able to find from those files, the data types, information about it is the profile of the data score that it calculated, and then if it was able to match those columns to entities which are universal entities like names and phone numbers and emails, which everybody does. But in addition, you can have your own glossary, and it is going to try to match to those glossary terms and indicate what is the match score. If you look at, for example, profile of the data, and I'm going to look at the state, for example, it will automatically define whether it's a categorical data or enumerated data, in which case it shows a distribution of that data. So we can take a look at it. Or in the case of numerical data, for example, I'm going to use, let's say latitude, is going to bucketize or let's say create a histogram of that information. If it's numerical data, if it's non-categorical data, it's going to use a pattern information to determine what type of or what is the distribution of the data that exists. And let's look at another data set. So similarly, transactional data, it automatically classifies orders as transactional data because it has time series information and all the usual stuff that we looked at. There are fields. In this particular case, I have a custom entity defined in my glossary, which is called order status. And because order status has similar values, it across my system, all the different places where it finds order statuses or statuses that looks like order status, it automatically matched to this particular data set. So this is the information, right off the bat. Okay, great, useful information. Now, what can I do in addition? How do I enrich it further? So first, let's go ahead and add a functional area. We want to define ownership of this data. So I can click on edit because I'm a data steward. So it allows me to edit. You can have custom tags. In this particular case, we have a tag which is defining the data domain of the data. So I say, hey, this looks like this is logistics data. And I'm just going to save this and show. If you publish this information, it will automatically, if the data domains have owners defined, like logistics data, the data owner is Larry and the data steward is Sam, it'll automatically infer this ownership from the data domain. Of course, you can change it at an individual object, but that's not, of course, the right scalable way to do it. So this is the stuff we can do with on the data catalog. Now, what about my analytics catalog? You said you scanned the Tableau. So what does it look like? So on here in the left nav, we have data dictionary, we have field dictionary, and analytics, because it looks like data sets, not tables and columns, it's data sets and reports. So there's a different view of it. From the scan, it found two different data sets called customer analytics and logistics model and 3 different reports. Let's take a look at one of them. There's a customer segmentation report. Again, of course, here the things are different because we have the ownership defined from the author of the data who created the report. We have lineage information. We'll look at that in a second. And then in a report, there are pages, or workbooks have sheets. So it gives the information about the pages. It brings in the report fields. They are connected to the data source field. And then, of course, because we have the data and analytics catalog together, it is fully connected to our data set, in this case, Snowflake, all the way to the data lake. If there are computed measures, those computed measures are also brought in, their formulas are brought in. So, any information in the metadata that's in the source, all of that is captured. Let's look at from Adam's standpoint, right? Adam is an analyst, so I'm just going to switch. Same thing, Adam logs in. Adam does not have access to administration, so there's all the role-based control of the catalog. And the first thing that his manager, has told her that, hey, we need to create a new return order report. So usually what will happen? Adam will go and find the data in the data warehouse, try to come up with a new report. But with the data catalog, maybe Adam can search and say, hey, I'm looking for order report. So because the whole analytics data and the reporting catalog is in one place, he's able to find everything that is in the report. We already have models and reports. So he said, okay, you know what, instead of creating from scratch, why don't I see what is already available? Oh, there is an order status report that's available. Okay, maybe I can just reuse it. Again, he can, just like we saw, he's able to open the report. He looks at who it is assigned to. It's a Tableau workbook. I look at the fields that are part of the report, and he sees, okay, there is some useful information, but you know what, this is not good enough. I'm trying to go more deeper into the customer side of it. Okay, what data set was it created from? I can see customer order analytics model. It's certified. So again, if the data was certified in Tableau, or you can certify it in DvSum, it shows, okay, who certified it. Okay, that's a good sign. Again, I look at the fields and I see that this has more of the information that I'm looking for. And this is the one. So instead of going back to the data sets and creating a model from scratch, conveniently, I can just log in and I have the link to my Tableau. And if I have access to this model, I can directly start from this model and create a new report. Of course, if this is still not good enough for me, I can go to the Lineage and find what data it is using, and go and build a report from scratch. So again, done very quickly in a matter of minutes. Let's look at from a perspective of Becky. So Adam finally created the report, and Becky received an email. So I'm just going to open an email to show how we can use this. And of course, he can share the Power BI Tableau report with her. But let's say that she gets an email with the return order analysis, and Adam said, hey, the order return worsened for clothing. And so she's looking at the data and she says, you know what? I'm not sure. Is it about quantity? Is it about the count of orders that were returned? So she's not sure. Again, she can reach out to Adam and wait for a few days because he's busy with something, or she can use the DvSum desktop plugin. With the desktop plugin, it looks like a book. Any place I have text, I can search for this. I click on the catalog. It uses the same enterprise search, but instead of her logging into the tool, she's able to find, let's see what she finds. Okay, there is a KPI, a glossary term called return percentage. I can click on it. It represents the return order quantity as a percentage of total orders. This is how it's computed. She understood, but she has a suggestion that maybe, we need to, instead of calling it return percentage, we should probably call it order return percent, so other people will know and they don't have, or return quantity percent. She can make a suggestion. So she's not a data steward, so she cannot edit the definition, but she can make a suggestion. So you can say that, okay, you should clarify that the name of this term or metric should be return quantity percent. She can also tag it so that it becomes searchable for future. She can say these are my order KPIs. So she's made that suggestion. Now Sam, whoever is the data, in this case, Sam is going to be notified. There is a suggestion from Becky, and now she's able to, and now he can incorporate this enrichment from the user, suggested by user, crowdsourced by user into our application. Let's look at from data engineering standpoint, from Emma's standpoint. We're looking at product hierarchy. Let's look at product hierarchy, product category, attribute in my data lake, or in a more from a modeling standpoint. We look at product category, and what we're trying to do is, let's look at what product category we're talking about in the raw zone. So product category is something we've been using as a string field, and it's because it's a long list of values. From a modeling standpoint, we want to change this to a code and value pair. So we want to change the string to a number. What impact it is going to have downstream, because of course this data is already being used. All right, so let's look at a lineage from a field perspective. So the same lineage, she's able to go here, and in this case, again, it's an impact analysis or a forward view of the lineage. Product categories used in, of course, curated zone. It looks in two different tables. It is used in these particular models in Tableau, and it is used in these this particular sheets in the report. Great. So now, if again, this depending on the change, either this needs to be communicated to the different stakeholders that, hey, we are going to make this change, or you're going to otherwise, so that we do not impact them without telling them in advance. We set this catalog. We want to see how we are tracking to it. So we have an analytics tab. or you can say catalog analytics tab. It's a quick snapshot of the overall inventory, 5 sources, 15 tables, how many columns, how many data domains, categories, your glossary terms, tags, users. If you look at from a dictionary standpoint, we can see overall summary of, what is the overall usability of the data. And usability, I did not talk about it in the demo, is, whether things are complete, or what is this tracking the curation of different data assets. What is the quality of my data? I can look at specifically, I'm looking at the raw zone. You can go specifically like, hey, what about data sets? What about fields? So I can, focus on some things which needs to be done better. I can look at glossary and look at my domains, how many categories are there, how many entities, how they are linked, how many of them are linked to how many physical data assets. Maybe some tag management. What are the different tags we have, that are being used, how they're used. And then a little bit of gamification. So, all the users that are using the catalog, as everybody is doing their activity, it keeps a track. So it gives them badges, gives them, and more importantly, what activities they did. Hey, people search for information. In this case, Becky made this contribution today, we saw, in terms of improving the definition. So it shows you made one contribution and then keeping a streak of time. Of course, from a steward standpoint, a specific users who have editor privileges standpoint, we look at, what are their assigned assets, and what is the usability score for them. So to recap what you saw, DvSum it's powerful. It centralizes the inventory of your entire data stack. It provides zero-day value with out-of-box classification, enrichment, and data quality. It's easy. Cloud solution does not require any infrastructure, sets up in minutes. Intuitive and business-friendly user interface requires little or no training. And the third, it's cost effective. You don't need to create a business case, multi-year roadmap on how to do this, get approvals from business. You can start delivering value in days. There was a question about, the different connectors. In our solution is simple tiered pricing. The connectors are just number of data connections. The connections are part of the system license.